Do you have any idea how much more challenging the special effects for the Barbie movie was compared to most current films? Anyone who thought that the Barbie movie would be a movie filled with nothing but pink and visual effects was mistaken. To bring this $145 million movie to life, it took plenty of ingenious ideas and cutting-edge equipment to ensure that the iconic Dolls film hit the theaters flawlessly, along with many other things like intense rehearsals, physical training, and even flight simulations. Want to know how this true saga unfolded to complete the sensational Barbie movie?
And putting like little bits of cellophane on the water to make it look like it's twinkling like water.
The Barbie movie, even though it's not an action-adventure genre, undoubtedly immerses all fans into a world of fantasy, the famous Barbie Land. And, as you'd expect, several special effects had to be produced to make this film simply stunning. Not many people would know that, for instance, the scenes where we see Barbie and Ken in various different environments, like flying in space and boating in the sea with seagulls and dolphins, were some of the most time-consuming and complex parts to create in the movie.
None of it's CGI, and it's just presentational as if you were watching a play.
It was using these old silent movie film techniques.
That's because the director, Greta Gerwig, is a proponent of using practical effects and prefers to use a minimal amount of computer-generated imagery, or CGI. Greta even mentioned that using CGI on actors would be an absolute nightmare, not only because of the time it would take and the financial cost, but mainly because CGI would take away the authenticity of what is shown on the screen. This demonstrates that the beauty and imperfections we see in the film are all 100% real and genuine. Now, speaking about the scenic locations where Barbie and Ken traveled outside of Barbie Land, an elaborate and highly technological set had to be constructed to make everything work seamlessly, in addition to having visual aspects that blend fantasy with lighthearted humor, as the film falls under the category of light comedy. For example, in the scene where Barbie and Ken are driving in the pink convertible of the doll, they used a treadmill to create the moving landscape while the prototype of the car was in motion. And you heard that right, I said prototype, because it really wasn't a car, at least not a real one. The exterior gave the appearance that it was the famous pink convertible Barbie car, but on the side where the actors were, there were no comfortable seats or anything of the sort, just a structure to set up for them to sit on and the steering wheel to appear. The same principle was used for the scene where Barbie and Ken are riding bicycles in a field full of flowers. In reality, they were just pedaling in place, and the flower scenery was created by the movement of the scenic treadmill. Even the executives at Mattel, the company that created Barbie, enjoyed the feeling of pedaling without going anywhere inside the recording studio too.
Every time we shot one of those transportation sequences, it was the most satisfying thing to watch.
It seems like it was good for them to step out of the office and enjoy the scent of wooden flowers. This same setup was used in all the scenes where Ken and Barbie were on their trip. The same thing happened during the scene with Barbie's pink boat, where you can perfectly see the details inside the boat, just to give you an idea. Additionally, some equipment resembling blue cylinders were used to create the effects of ocean waves, and the set turned out to be both really cool and quite unreal at the same time. Funny thing is, many things had to be done in the old-fashioned way, by hand, since they wanted to evoke the style of old Barbie doll commercials that were made similarly. For example, talking about the boat scene, two things were done manually. First, the seagull that startles Ken was held by a production assistant, who was holding the plastic bird on the end of a stick. How cool is that? Another thing was the dolphins we see and hear in the movie. They were literally operated by two stagehands who were just below the boat, as you can see in this scene. The sound of the marine animals were added during editing, of course. I guess they didn't pay the stagehands enough to imitate the dolphin sounds. And the scene we found funniest is the one where Ken is trying to reach the rocket while Barbie is sitting on it in space. Of course, in the movie, the cables were removed, but originally in the studio, you can see the 4 cables that were keeping Barbie's boyfriend in the air, floating in quotation marks. If you look closely, even the planets in space have steel cables holding them to make them float in space.
I wanted to paint in big, beautiful, broad strokes and build this crazy world. It's something where I just want people to feel.
The same cables were also used in scenes where Barbie simply floats from her house to her beautiful pink car. And, of course, in this part, computer effects were used to remove the little cables. Otherwise, the coolness factor would look silly. It's crazy to think that a multi-million-dollar film like Barbie, which cost $145 million, needed people pulling strings and cranking gears, and still turned out super cool. Even that cellophane, which you've heard of and probably bought at least once in your life for some school activity, was manually placed in the scenes to give a real special effects aspect, without computer graphics. So, we can say that the famous green screen used for creating special effects was hardly used in the Barbie movie. We'll still tell you many other cool things we discovered about the Barbie movie's filming. If you're enjoying the video, or if you love Barbie, Comment #pink down below so we know. Another thing that was highly discussed and questioned if it was done with special effects was the famous scene that demonstrated Barbie's perfection, where she walked without touching her feet on the ground. In many interviews during the film's promotion, Greta was asked if she used CGI to achieve that level of perfection in the scene that seems impossible for normal people to walk with their feet like that. She said the following: "There was a big discussion at the beginning, so I thought, oh god no, Margot has the most beautiful feet. She has these lovely dancer's feet. So, to create that perfect scene, 8 shots of the same scene were needed until it looked exactly how the film's production wanted it. Additionally, Margot Robbie, who played Barbie, used a metal bar for support while walking almost on her tiptoes, which helped a lot to maintain balance."
I just walked up, kind of held onto the bar above camera. What a perfect art.
Of course, some cute computer effects were added to the movie in some scenes, and it turned out really cool too. The blend of a bit of computer graphics with manual effects resulted in a clear portrayal that the movie was truly inspired by a world made of dolls, which isn't real, but also not filled with completely unrealistic computer graphics. Another really cool thing the production team did was to create a small version of what Barbie Land would look like a maquette done entirely by hand. This served as a reference to create the life-size Barbie city as perfectly as possible.
One thing that those soundstage musicals did so well were beautiful artificial skies. There's a sort of surrealness of the gradation of color.
In this way, even though it was incredibly laborious, it became much easier to create the full-size super pink space, where all those Barbies and Kens could have fun, dance, and live their perfect lives. And, of course, all the work took inspiration from all the toys, houses, and accessories that millions of little girls around the world have had and know well. Every tiny detail was considered to create each of the Barbie items and trinkets that appeared in the movie. For example, the background image showing a landscape with the sea, palm trees, coconuts, and mountains needed to be entirely hand-painted by artists hired for this purpose.
We're getting a blue sky, we're painting white clouds on it, and when you light them, you can light them into these intense colors, so you can light.
It turned out very realistic, and much better than if computer graphics with green screens and CGI had been used. To achieve this, real landscapes were chosen as references, especially from Malibu, where Barbie lives, so that the scenery closely resembled the reality of Barbie's real-world life. The same approach was taken for the background scenery of the road that Barbie takes when leaving the Barbie city for the real world. The background landscape is entirely done in art and paint.
A lot of the things you see are actually handmade. It's pretty incredible what they can do, how they can design things in miniatures and then...
For those who thought only pink paint was used in the movie of the world's most famous doll, this is proof that other colors were used too, because otherwise, even the sky would be pink in the movie. But the truth is, everyone would find it strange if it were any different. These are all the new behind-the-scenes details we've brought to you about the live-action Barbie movie. Comment down below if you've watched or are planning to watch the Barbie movie. We'd love to know. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye-bye!